Ladies and gentlemen, today we are mixing it up a little bit. Today's video is not going to be a traditional rebuild. Today we are doing a Q&A. We are at an absolutely dead point of the NBA offseason right now, and I thought, why not? Along with a couple requests to do this video, I thought it would be a good idea to do a Q&A. So that's what we have for you here today. We're going to talk about some basketball. You guys also asked me some real-life questions. We got about 15 of them today. I'm looking forward to this one. Normal rebuilds will be back on Monday, but of course, I'm always happy to mix it up and do some videos that are kind of non-rebuilds. You guys can kind of see a little bit of a different side of me, and obviously, I know you guys have some questions as well. So, I don't know when the next Q&A will be, but if you guys do want to see one down the line, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button down below. Make sure I know you guys are actually enjoying these videos. Of course, if you guys do have any other video ideas, whether they're rebuilds, non-rebuild videos, whatever they may be, make sure to let me know that down below in the comment section. But, of course, I'm excited for a little bit of a change of pace today, along with hopefully connecting with some of you guys in my community. So, let's get into this one. So, it's pretty simple the way this is going to work, as you can see probably at the bottom of your screen right now or momentarily. I'm going to post a question there so you guys can see it. I'll read it off and then I'll answer it. So, first question here from Stoinky Doinky. I like the name. It's a two-parter. One, what are your favorite jerseys of all time, and which ones do you think are the worst? I guess that's almost a three-parter then. My favorite all time, I like the historic Raptors ones, like the Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady era, with the big-ass Raptor on it. I love the Vancouver Grizzlies jerseys. I think those are just absolutely clean as hell. I'm sure there's many, many others, but there's a lot of teams that do really well with jerseys. There's some teams that do some really bad things. Talking about my least favorite of all time, oh man, probably off the top of my head, I hated the green Mavericks. It looks like shit, whether it's the old or the new thing they try to do with like graffiti lettering. Mavericks also had a silver jersey that looked like shit. Any single jersey that has different colored shirts from different colored shorts, or jersey, whatever the hell you want to call it. Top and bottom, when they're different colors, it rarely ever looks good. I don't think I can pick one off the top of my head that I actually enjoyed, so I would say that, and then the long sleeve jerseys were just kind of weird. Besides the iconic Cavs ones that you all remember from the 2016 finals, those were obviously sick, but other than that, was not a huge fan of the long sleeve jerseys, so that would be my answer to that. Second part of the question, not a basketball question, but I know in your videos you said you graduated college. How did you go about finding a graduate job? I am waiting for my graduation ceremony for uni in Australia, and I'm finding the transition between university and the real world a tough gig. Well, I can promise you it definitely is. It is a huge, major life adjustment, whether you're leaving college or leaving high school, whatever it really may be. When you're transitioning into something completely new that's unfamiliar for you, it takes a while. I can promise you that. I graduated college in May of 2022. It is now August of 2023, and I still wouldn't say I'm fully used to, the day-to-day activity. I do have a full-time job, obviously, besides YouTube as well, and it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to figure out kind of what I wanted to do, because in many aspects, you can always change your job throughout your life. It doesn't really matter what you kind of start out doing. Honestly, it really doesn't matter what you have your degree in, unless you're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer, whatever that may be. But when you think about it like this, your first job is typically an intro to further jobs down your life. So if you start in some sort of, I don't know, let's just say finance job, you're probably not going to be working in some completely unrelated field 20 years from now unless you really make an effort. So it is really challenging. A lot of companies these days do the most unnecessary interview patterns where they make you do like 3, 4, 5 interviews when you probably could have wrapped it up in 1 or 2. I mean, I get it. It's a huge applicant pool, but it really is such a painful process. And honestly, it is such a relief once you do finally get that job. So I really do wish you luck, man. It's a stressful time, and I can definitely promise you that, but everything has a weird way kind of working itself out in the end. So that would be my best advice. Question number 2 here from Jeremy appears to be more of a suggestion than a question, but he says, why don't you do a historic rebuild series with the Boston Celtics? See how things would turn out as the GM for the past 20 years. So are you saying like go back to like 2003? And like the era when like Paul Pierce couldn't get it done yet. I mean, I could. I've always been interested in doing a GM series and kind of like trying to do something realistic, whether it's, current or going back in time or whatever it may be. Obviously, none of that would start till 2K24. The one problem with that is viewer retention. And again, I don't obviously do this to have as many people watching as possible. But if I'm going to start a series, it's obviously going to start high, and then it's going to casually drop off as the more episodes kind of go on. Along with that, I don't want it to feel stale or stagnant, and that is pretty tricky. Obviously, a lot of rebuild videos anyways probably do feel like that, and I don't want to pile on. So, again, it's an idea, and if it's something you guys want to see, and obviously if I can make the time for it, which I hopefully will, then I'd be down. I think it could be something fun that we could definitely try out, but again, I have tried GM series in the past, and they really just haven't really gone anywhere. So I know other YouTubers do them, and they're obviously tons of fun to watch, and that's why they still do them. But I don't know if that's necessarily my cup of tea, but could be something I'm open to in 2K24. Besides the Jays and the Celtics, who are your other favorite players and teams you tune in to watch? Now, I'm sure most of you know, but if you didn't, the Celtics and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are some of my favorite things in this world to watch. Now, I love all basketball. If there's a nationally televised game that I can kind of get my eyes on, I'll watch it pretty much no matter what, unless I have something like crazy major going on that would really kind of hinder that. But if I had to pick like specific teams, specific players, off the top of my head, I mean, just watching that postseason run from Nikola Jokic was one of the more entertaining things I've ever seen. I mean, this dude is just out of this world incredible. Obviously great that he's won a ring now. I love watching the Dallas Mavericks, weirdly enough. I love watching Luka. And if you love him or hate him, you have to love watching Kyrie Irving on the basketball court. He's just an incredible player to watch. So, love Dallas, love watching Denver. I love the Lakers, honestly, as much as it hurts me as a Celtics fan. I'll still love watching LeBron probably until he retires. I mean, I hate it when he's kicking my Celtics ass, which he did for a long time, but other than that, he is a very, very entertaining player. But quite honestly, I'll put on anything and watch anything. I can always find enjoyment in basketball. How long have you been a basketball fan, and how did you become a Celtics fan? Well, it's kind of the simple and most boring answer, but I was born just outside of Boston. I currently live in Boston, and I basically love every single Boston sport that there is. Now, obviously, I've kind of felt like I've been spoiled a little bit over the last 2 decades just because there was a lot of winning when Tom Brady and the Patriots were going on here. Obviously, the Red Sox have won a few World Series in my lifetime, and it's great. And I genuinely do feel bad when my teams suck for like 3, 4, 5 years because I'm like, this is what most fan bases go through for like 20 plus years. So yeah, I mean, just kind of being born here, my entire family loves Boston sports. My dad's a huge Boston sports fan, so that definitely has a lot to do with it. And then how long have I been a fan of basketball? Honestly, as long back as I can remember. I mean, I'm 23 years old. When the Celtics won their last championship, I was 8. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. You know, I have some slight memories of that. It's nothing like serious or anything like that, but I mean, it's literally as far back as I can remember. I've always just been very, very intrigued with the sport. I love all the off-season drama, all the trade drama, free agency. It just really gets me excited. It's always one of my favorite ways to kind of kick off summer with all that stuff. So really, as long as I can remember, I've obviously been making videos since I think my senior year of high school, so it's definitely been a while now, but covering it that long, I would say. And yeah, I've been really watching and enjoying it all my life. Non-sports questions. Have you ever had a teacher you didn't like? Have you had beef with anyone in your life? And have you ever gotten a lunch detention? I thought you were rhyming there for a minute. I guess we'll just go part by part. Have I ever had a teacher I didn't like? Yeah, there's a lot of them. I went to public school, and don't get me wrong, the teachers were great, but a lot of the time they were very kind of stuck in their ways, and it really felt like it was their way or the highway. And again, I get it. Like, teachers are there to hopefully teach you, and so you can learn something. But when teachers get stuck in their ways and they really don't do anything to kind of accommodate people, that really pisses me off, whether it's me or a friend or whatever it may be. And then come college, I guess that's kind of the good part. If you guys are in college, university, whatever it's called, you can kind of have free pick of who you want to kind of take classes with. And again, if you're in college and you don't know what this is, I highly suggest looking up Rate My Professor. You can click through your school, you can click on your professors or potential professors and kind of see how they've been graded throughout the years. So college, not as much. There was a few assholes throughout the lines, and yeah, but we still made it to the other side. So ultimately, nothing too big. Have you ever had beef with anyone in your life? Yeah, I mean, nothing to the point where we're like going to court or anything or anybody's getting arrested, but like, yeah, we have fights. I mean, I have fights with my friends from time to time. I've had fights with people I don't really consider friends anymore. And yeah, I mean, I also played 3 sports going through high school and all of, basically my life. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely some fights out on the football field, I can say that. And then finally, have I ever gotten a lunch detention? My school didn't really do lunch detentions. In high school, the way we kind of did is you had to stay after, which I think makes it a lot worse. Like, it's kind of a pain in the ass at that point. But yeah, I mean, I got a few. I wasn't some kid who like got in trouble every single day for doing like outlandish shit. I kind of just minding my own business and hung out with my friends most of the time. But yeah, I mean, I can remember there was a couple cases my senior year of high school when I knew where I was going to college. I basically knew I was going to graduate, and I kind of just fucked off a lot. And I remember one time specifically, I was in like a woodworking class. Me and one of my buddies, there's like a garage door basically in the classroom, and it was open because it was May of like my senior year. It was warm out, and I remember we just were doing nothing. Like the guy wanted us to build a birdhouse. I'm like, dude, I don't need a fucking birdhouse. Like, I'm graduating in 12 days. Like, what are we doing? And we literally just walked outside. We did like a lap around the school, and we got back, and he was pissed. He had already called like the principal's office and everything, and I don't know. We had a detention for that, but that's like the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But other than that, nothing too crazy. No suspensions or anything. Junes asks, where do you think the remaining free agents could go? Now, obviously, there's really no major free agents left. I just have a Bleacher Report article pulled up from like July 10th of the major free agents. And I guess I'll just go through like the top 5. I don't know. Christian Wood just kind of feels like he's going to end up being a Laker. I don't really know what happened with Christian Wood. I feel like he just kind of fizzled out. It just kind of feels like I haven't heard that name in a while. He was in Dallas last year, and ultimately, I think I think the Lakers make sense for him, and ultimately they have a really weird way of kind of getting solid enough players for really good deals. So I wouldn't be surprised about the Lakers. Let's see, PJ Washington. I know Charlotte's been a little bit hesitant to maybe bring him back. I'm assuming there's some teams that could take a flyer on him. Now, I don't know exactly how much he would ask for in free agency, but there's not a ton of teams with a lot of cap space left, so I don't know. I mean, maybe the Spurs need another big man, whatever it may be. He could end up going back to Charlotte. Just off the top of my head, I don't know. Any team that really needs a big man that has a little bit of money, I could kind of see it. Kelly Oubre, I think, could be a really good bench piece for a lot of really good contenders. The problem would just be kind of settling on a dollar amount. I would love to have him on my Celtics. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but I could see Milwaukee as a really good fit, maybe even to replace Bruce Brown in Denver if that's a possibility. I think there's a lot of options for Kelly Oubre. I think he could contribute to a team pretty well. Hamidou Diallo, I honestly, no idea. I could sit here all day. I couldn't really play as Hamidou Diallo. I mean, maybe back to Detroit unless Detroit doesn't want him, but I don't know. Again, it kind of feels like one of those situations, maybe kind of a younger, more inexperienced team just takes a flyer, see if it works out. I don't know. And then finally, Darius Bazley, who I think actually might have signed with somebody already. I don't know. I thought he did. If not, again, I think it's the same thing, kind of just another younger team. John says the Pistons could be a sneaky play-in team and might even make the playoffs. Jalen Duren, most improved player. I think Jalen Duren's going to take a jump next season. Obviously, there is, I don't want to say a logjam of big men in Detroit, but there's some big men in Detroit that obviously have to figure out the playing time and everything. But I think Jalen Duren has a bright future in this league. And then in terms of the Pistons being a sneaky playing team, might even make the playoffs, I don't know about that one. I mean, just reading off of like the standings last year, teams that I think are better and will likely make the playoffs over the Pistons. I think the Bucks are a lock, Celtics are a lock, Sixers probably a lock, they're a lock. The Cavs lock, Knicks lock, Nets probably a lock. Atlanta Hawks, I think they've gotten better this offseason, especially if they pull off a Pascal Siakam trade. That's definite. Miami always finds a way to sneak in there. You all know that. And then we're kind of getting into uncharted territories at this point. I think Indiana's going to make a little bit of a jump this season. I would not be surprised to see them in the play-in. The Toronto Raptors, it kind of depends on a few factors. Obviously, losing Fred VanVleet and not having any other major additions is tricky. We'll see. The Bulls are stuck in no man's land. I wouldn't be surprised if at the deadline they decide to blow it up. It's insane. Wizards are going to be worse. Magic, I think, will be better. Hornets will probably still suck. And Detroit, who won 17 games last year. If Cade Cunningham's healthy and back and playing well, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the conversation for that 9-10 seed. So I don't know about playoffs or anything like that, but I think they'll be in the play-in conversation. That's probably what I would say. In terms of my MVP pick this year, I think it's going to be the third year in a row, maybe even fourth. No, I think it's the third. Yeah, I'm running it back with Luka. I mean, again, you look at that Dallas Mavericks roster. Obviously, him and Kyrie are just an incredible backcourt, but other than that, there's some young pieces they've now added. There's still some development for guys like Josh Green. There's really no true third option on that team. I mean, obviously, bringing in Grant Williams in free agency was a good pickup. But for me, I just think the usage that Luka's going to have, I think his numbers are going to be absolutely insane. I really do. If I had to pick one right now, I'm going with Luka, especially if Dallas is in any sort of contention as like a top 5, maybe 6 seed. I think Luka could possibly get it done this year. I think it's finally the year. Other sleepers, I would say, I don't want to say sleepers. That's not a good term because I'm probably going to just say the same guys that have been in the conversation. But Nikola Jokic, you're never going to count out. The man's absolutely incredible, coming off a finals MVP, a championship. I would not be surprised if he was back in the MVP conversation. Let's see. I think Embiid will probably still be in there. Again, it's going to be interesting to see kind of the direction and the team that Philadelphia has when and if they do move on from James Harden. I think Harden, again, obviously tremendous facilitator, really good passer. Definitely helps out Embiid, and it's not me saying that that's the reason why I won MVP, but it definitely helps his case. And then obviously you have guys like my man Jason Tatum. Would not be mad if he was back in the conversation. I don't know exactly if his numbers will be as good as last year, because obviously they added a guy in Kristaps Porzingis who can easily put up 20-plus points a game, and it does suck losing Marcus Smart. But I'm not going off about that right now. But yeah, I mean, I would say those four are probably in the conversation for me, and obviously you have guys like Giannis are always going to be in there. So my pick is Luka right now. That's what I'm going to say, but I would not be surprised if that was kind of the top 5 list. Easy asks, which team do you think is in the worst position? Now, I have like 3 I think I'm going to go with, and all for a couple of different reasons. Number 1, and I've harped on this just an absolutely insane amount of times, the Chicago Bulls are stuck in the middle of nowhere. They extended Nikola Vucevic this offseason, obviously still led by DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, and that's not a team that's going to win you a championship. That is a late playoff team, probably a play-in team at best. That's not a true contender in the East, and honestly, it's not like there's some crazy young talent just sitting on their bench. I mean, obviously you have guys like Patrick Williams there, but like, they're not really in any direction right now, and it's weird, and if I was a Bulls fan, I'd be pissed about it, because what it really seems like is all they want to do is just make a profit, which sucks, because Chicago Bulls are a very respectable organization, and it kind of sucks to see them going in a direction like that. I just hate when teams do shit like that. Next, these are 2 maybe hot takes. I don't want to necessarily say hot takes, because they're both going to be good this year, but my first one, and hear me out, is the Phoenix Suns. Now, again, stay patient with me. Phoenix has a window, and it is not an extremely, extremely long window. Kevin Durant is not getting any younger. Bradley Beal is not getting any younger. These are contracts that really kind of limit the moves you can make, on top of the fact of you don't really have many assets down the line. So you're locked into some big contracts. DeAndre Ayton, obviously Devin Booker is well worth it. But other than that, there's really not a ton of things you can do down the line. And if this championship doesn't work out for you, Phoenix, it might blow up in your face. And then my final one, for kind of obvious reasons, is the Los Angeles Clippers. They're a team for me right now that is just in such a weird spot, because they don't have a lot of their own draft assets, tracing back to the Paul George trade. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard obviously have some health issues. You have Russell Westbrook still kind of going strong there. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I can see that team actually ever getting over the hump. I mean, they were in the Western Conference Finals. I think it was 2021. But just for me, I just think there's too many kind of depreciating assets and not enough positive future assets. That's just kind of the way I see the team right now. Top 3 contenders from each conference. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 more from each conference, but I will limit it to 3. The East is pretty simple for me. If I had to pick the top 3 that I think are true contenders, it's the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and the Miami Heat. I mean, those all seem pretty obvious. The Celtics and the Bucks were the 2 best teams in the East last year. Throughout the regular season, obviously, Miami made that Cinderella run last year, and I don't even want to call it a Cinderella run. I mean, they've been so good for so long that you really can't call it that, even though they were a playing team, 8 whatever. But I'm still going to put them in contention every single year. It would feel weird not to do that. They've proved year in and year out that they are a contender. And especially if they go and add a Damian Lillard, if and when that does happen, I think that'll just put them even higher into the contention list. So in terms of the West, obviously Denver, it hurts losing Bruce Brown, but they're still a contender in my opinion. Any team that has Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, they're going to be in the contenders for me. Second, and this is not in any sort of order, I'm just going off the standings from last year. Next for me would be the Phoenix Suns, obviously a huge addition last year, or this offseason, in Bradley Beal. We get a full season now with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton all together, and now Beal. And I think they're obviously a contender for obvious reasons. Now, I know I just said that their future might not necessarily be bright, and they're not in the greatest position if they don't capitalize on this window. But right now, they're still definitely a contender. And then finally, the Lakers. Again, I'm sure there's other teams in there that I'm missing, and maybe even some that you disagree with. But for me, the Lakers have had a tremendous offseason. I have loved basically every single move that they have made. Hopefully, you have a full year of LeBron and Anthony Davis healthy, and they were just in the Western Conference Finals. Although they did get swept, I've really liked the additions they've made. I love the Gabe Vincent signing. I think it's going to help out a lot. And I think it's going to work out for them very well. Hopefully another year of Austin Reeves progression as well. So Lakers are definitely up there for me. Do you have any tips for anyone who want to start a My League, My Career channel, and is streaming My League a good idea? Keep up the work. You're one of my favorite YouTubers. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I guess I can kind of talk about this one a little bit more in depth. Again, I'm trying not to go too much into the time for each single question because we have 15 of them. For me, when I first started, I have no idea kind of what I wanted to do. I tried out a bunch of different games, a bunch of different things at the beginning, and honestly, I kind of just did everything until one thing worked. So for me, it's really about finding your niche, and this is just in terms of general YouTube talk. If you know you want to do My League, My Career, whatever it may be within 2K, go for it. I highly, highly suggest that you do. I think it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't do this for a job. It's not like I'm sitting here making crazy money. I do this because I genuinely enjoy it, and I enjoy interacting with you guys, and I enjoy making these videos. And that's really what it's all about for me. Now, finding that passion and that, that drive to make 5-6 videos a week, whatever it may be, is tricky. It takes a lot out of you, whether you believe it or not. It is a lot to kind of do, and always coming up with ideas and talking with the community. It's a lot to do, but it's very well worth it for me. So if I had to give anybody advice, I would say don't start out your videos by clickbaiting. People are going to hate you, and it's not going to be well for a track record and, monumentally gaining subscribers and everything like that. And then just be your authentic self. If you come onto a camera and you try to put on some personality or some persona that's just not you, people can read right through it. They can see right through it. I mean, for me, I feel like I've always been myself. There might be a few of my older videos where I was maybe trying a little bit too hard and it just didn't work. It's not for me. So again, be creative, be yourself, try a lot of different things. Literally the best advice I can give you. And definitely when you're like really small, like when you're really just starting out, like when you have under 100 subscribers, if you're getting comments and views and likes and whatever it may be, interact with those people a lot. I mean, those people are there to support you, and they're there to kind of get you off your feet and, start moving along. So those are definitely the people that I appreciate the most. I still remember some of them, and even though they might not be here anymore, I still really do appreciate them for helping me kind of get my start into this industry and this community. So that would kind of be my best advice. In terms of streaming, it's great. People love watching streams. It's just a really, really good way to interact with everybody. People can obviously give suggestions through there, and it's just a ton of fun. And you're probably sitting there, why don't I stream? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, it's about finding the time. I'm always going to prioritize videos instead of streaming. I think streaming is a ton of fun. Don't get me wrong. I've done it in the past. For me, it's about getting videos up, and I barely have time. Not barely, but I focus a lot of my time on making the videos when I do have that time. On top of that, I have a piece of shit computer. It is so bad, it is so old, and it sucks. It's terrible. It's something I'm trying to save up some money for and hopefully get a new one eventually. And then third, my Wi-Fi is terrible too. Can't do much about that. But yeah, I mean, for me, if you can stream and you have what it takes to stream and you can keep a crowd entertained, it's one of the best things you can do to kind of grow a community, whether, it's on Twitch or any of these other new platforms or YouTube. I think it's great. And I do think it's something that's really fun to do. And I would suggest it. So that would be my advice. Which team is getting slept on the most? Interesting. I'll give you one from each conference. If I had to pick an Eastern Conference team, I think there's a couple that are getting slept on. But for me, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And there's a couple reasons why I'm doing that. I think another year of progression for guys like Evan Mobley and Darius Garland is going to be huge. Obviously, you have a really, really good player there in Donovan Mitchell. You have a really good center in Jared Allen, along with a great addition in free agency in Max Strus, in my opinion. I think this team set itself up really, really well, and I don't think there's enough people kind of talking about how good the Cavs could potentially be next year. And obviously, a very, very short postseason run for them this past season, but another year of development, some good free agent signings. I think they're going to be a pretty good team in the Eastern Conference and potentially a long playoff run. And then in terms of the West, nobody, and I mean nobody, is talking about the Sacramento Kings. They were a 3 seed last year. This was a good basketball team that really kind of came out of nowhere, and it feels like nobody's really giving them much credit. I think they're going to do great things this season once again. I've really, really liked the progression that I've seen from De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis. I think they fit really, really well together. Obviously, just an incredible season from both of them last year, and I would not be surprised if they were a top 3, maybe 4 seed again, but I just don't think people are talking about them enough because a lot of teams have done in the West specifically, have done a lot this offseason. I think Sacramento is definitely going to be really good again. Do I think the Clippers are contenders? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'll kind of just reiterate it a little bit. Kind of just where I stand on the Clippers. I mean, for me, it kind of comes down to one big thing, is just health. I mean, are Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, all those important players really going to be healthy when it matters for the Clippers? The Clippers' tenure with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George has not really amounted to much so far, and that's obviously really, really disappointing. and they don't really have a choice. They kind of have to keep going for it because they don't have a lot of their future draft picks. They're all in Oklahoma City. So for me, do I consider the Clippers a contender? If fully healthy, yeah. I think they're probably a top 4 or 5 team in the Western Conference. And again, playoff Kawhi, when fully healthy, is a completely different breed. He's so much fun to watch. And yeah, I think if they're healthy, I think they are a contender. I don't think they're necessarily up there in that maybe level 1 contender with some of those teams, but I do think they can probably contend barring any setbacks, which again, I'm hoping doesn't happen, but I'm not saying it's not going to happen. So that's my take. Why didn't you finish the rest of the prospect rebuilds? Okay, so I don't know how many prospect rebuilds I did. Probably did like 7 players if I had to guess. And it boils down to a few things. When you have like a draft class with guys that we had this year, Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, like those are guys that are potentially franchise players. Those are players that you can do a rebuild around. You can fully build around those guys, have fun rebuilds with them. People want to watch them. I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, and obviously there's always at least one guy, it feels like, that really slips in the draft class that turns into a potential franchise player, a guy that's really good for a team that we don't do a rebuild with. And again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I'm not going to do a rebuild with like the 17th overall pick in the draft, like around him, like for a couple reasons. Like nobody wants to watch that besides maybe a few people. And it's just really not going to be entertaining, you know what I'm saying? Because the way I do prospect rebuilds is they play the entire time. And if I'm getting shitty progression out of somebody, it's just not going to really be that entertaining. So that's kind of the reason, along with the fact that people wanted to just see other things. It was a very weird time after the draft, right up until free agency, where we didn't have a lot of time. So I did the ones I could. Obviously, there could be a few others that I probably could have done, but I was happy with the ones we did. And obviously, we did we did offseason rebuilds with every team, and the prospects were included in those. So maybe not prospect rebuilds, but they were definitely in rebuilds. So yeah. In our 15th and final question here, who are your top 5 shooting guards of all time? P.S. If your list includes James Harden or AI and doesn't include Manu Ginobili, you might need to make a new list. Okay, interesting. I will say Manu Ginobili had an insane career. He was a tremendous sixth man. I think he was 6th man of the year in one year. He won 4 championships. He was just absolutely incredible, and he's a Hall of Famer. Like, he's in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's incredible. Do not get me wrong. Based off specific, and I do think he's very underrated, but based off specific talent, I don't know if he can kind of go, like, with Allen Iverson and James. I just don't know if he's there. Like, you're talking about MVPs. Like, I just don't know if Manu Ginobili's quite at that level. Obviously, he's a great winner, and he was, like, a really good number 3, 4, whatever you want to call him, on a lot of those Spurs teams. But, I mean, if I had to give you my list, it's MJ, Kobe, D-Wade, and then I'm going to piss people off, but like probably Harden, AI. Like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. You can probably switch those two. I know there's been a lot of debate on Twitter recently between Dwayne Wade and James Harden. I'm not getting into that right now. Dwayne Wade is better. I'm standing by that take, but I don't know. I think for me, those are the 5 that kind of really fit in there well. And then, I mean, you can also get in the conversation with like, I don't know, the Vince Carters and George Gervin, and like a lot of these guys that were really, really good themselves. And I'm not saying Manu Ginobili is not a really, really good player. I just don't know if he's quite on the level of any of those 5 guys that I just mentioned. So again, I know he has the rings where AI and Harden really don't have that against him, but other than that, there's really not much that I think Manu Ginobili did a lot better than those 2 specifically. So that's kind of my take on that. Manu's incredible, Hall of Famer, just really, really good, but I'm sticking with AI and James Harden ahead of them right now. I don't know if that's an outlandish take. I feel like it might not be. I think a lot of people will probably agree with me, but I don't know. Who knows? I've thought that before, and I've been very wrong. But yeah, that's my 5. So that's it. That was our final question. I picked 15. I felt like it was the right amount. We got a few more that I didn't answer. There was some that were just like really, really strange that I didn't think were appropriate for YouTube necessarily, and then some that just didn't really make any sense. So, yeah, I do apologize if I couldn't get to your question. I thought 15 was a good amount. I'm assuming we'll probably do another one of these within a year or 2. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, and then, I don't know, there's always fun times to ask me questions. You can always comment it. You can always DM me anything you want to know. I'm always open for discussion. But, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this. It was kind of, I don't want to say a breath of fresh air, but kind of nice to just kind of sit back, relax, and kind of talk some hoops and some real life stuff with you guys. So I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as well. I have no idea what I'm putting in the background of this video. I'm assuming it's just going to be 2K gameplay. So yeah, if it's me playing the game throughout this, Don't be mean. I'm very, very bad at the game. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I had a ton of fun with this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. You guys ever want to see more kind of non-rebuild videos and you have suggestions, let me know down below in the comment section. But other than that, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. It is Friday when you guys are seeing this, and I'll see you guys on Monday. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all on the next one.